Okay, when you think of English Renaissance drama, I bet one name just pops into your head, right? Shakespeare. But what about his greatest rival? Today, we're going to dive into the world of Ben Jonson. He was brilliant, sharp, and hugely influential, a real titan of literature who absolutely carved out his own path.
You see, it's fascinating because Jonson was playing a completely different game than Shakespeare. Where Shakespeare gave us this incredible, fluid exploration of the human heart, Jonson, he was all about precision. He wasn't just telling stories. Oh, no. He was more like a social critic, using his plays like a scalpel to dissect human folly and, teach a lesson.
So the big question is, how did this guy, this master of kind of formal, instructive satire, become a theatrical rock star? What was his secret sauce? Well, it all started with this one revolutionary idea that completely, and I mean completely, changed the game for English comedy.
All right, so Jonson's first big splash on the London theater scene was this brand new genre he basically championed called the Comedy of Humours. And you have to understand, this was radical stuff. At the time, all the stages were just flooded with romantic comedies. Jonson comes along and offers something totally different, a psychological framework for his characters that felt almost scientific. And bam, it cemented his reputation practically overnight. So the theory behind all this, it's actually fascinating. Jonson basically borrowed this idea from ancient medicine. The belief was that our personalities were governed by the balance of 4 fluids in our bodies, what they called humors. Too much blood and you were super cheerful, maybe a little naive. Too much black bile and you were gloomy and melancholy. Jonson took this exact concept and just plopped it right onto the stage.
So let's see how this actually played out on stage. Take his breakout hit, Every Man in His Humor. The characters are all driven by one single dominant trait. So you've got this young guy, well-bred, who has way too much blood, which makes him gullible and super easy to manipulate. And then you get the crafty servant, Brainworm. He's this master schemer who uses everyone else's predictable humors against them, and the result is just brilliant comedy.
Okay, so with the Comedy of Humours, Jonson had really found his voice, and he used it to create some of the most biting, hilarious takedowns of human greed and corruption ever written. This was him at the absolute peak of his power.
And this quote, it just perfectly captures the essence of his masterpiece, Volpone, which means the fox. The play is just this brilliant, cynical, and hilarious look at what happens when the pursuit of wealth totally corrodes a person's soul. It's a comedy, sure, but wow, it reveals some seriously dark truths about human nature.
So let's break down this incredible con, okay? First, you've got Volpone, this rich nobleman who pretends he's on his deathbed. This, of course, attracts a whole circle of greedy vultures, a lawyer, a merchant, you name it. And they all start showering him with expensive gifts, hoping they'll be named the sole heir. And the whole time, pulling all the strings, is his servant, Mosca, who might actually be even more cunning than his master. The whole play is just a masterclass in manipulation.
So, just 4 years later, Jonson struck gold again, literally. This time, he turned his satirical eye right onto the city of London itself. His next play, The Alchemist, dives headfirst into the world of con artists and, the desperate and foolish people who fall for their tricks.
At the heart of this play is this just unforgettable trio of swindlers. Okay, so you've got Face, the servant, who's running the whole operation while his master's out of town. He teams up with Subtle, a charismatic but totally fake alchemist, and their accomplice, Alchemist. And from the master's house, they promise this whole parade of gullible clients the one thing everybody desires, a philosopher's stone that can turn base metals into pure gold. It's frantic, it's brilliant, and it's a deeply funny look at just how foolish people can be.
But here's the thing. Jonson was so much more than just a master of comedy. His influence spread across all kinds of genres, establishing him not just as a great playwright, but really as a foundational figure in English literature as a whole.
Just to prove his incredible range, Jonson also wrote these super serious historical tragedies. Plays like Sejanus's Fall used all the political drama of ancient Rome as a way to explore the ambition, betrayal, and corruption happening right in his own time.
And he didn't stop there. He was also a huge innovator in royal entertainment. Jonson pretty much invented the court masque, which was this incredibly extravagant spectacle for the rich and powerful. It combined poetry, crazy stage designs, music, dance, the whole 9 yards. His Mask of Blackness, for example, was a massive hit in King James's court.
And just when you think you've got him figured out, you discover this whole other side to him. The same sharp-tongued satirist was also a master lyricist. He wrote some of the most famous and beautiful love poems of the era, like the timeless song to Celia. The guy's talent was just immense.
So when you look at his legacy, it's just so multifaceted. He was a great playwright, a celebrated poet, and on top of all that, he was a trailblazing literary critic. His book Timber, or Discoveries, laid down some of the foundational ideas of English literary criticism. It literally shaped how we've talked about literature for centuries.
His influence was so profound that a whole generation of younger writers, we're talking people like Robert Herrick and John Suckling, proudly called themselves the Sons of Ben. And this wasn't just some fan club. They saw him as a mentor, as the leader of a literary movement. His style, his precision, his wit, that was the gold standard. He wasn't just a writer, he was an institution.
And you know what? The establishment certainly agreed. Jonson became one of the very first writers to get what was basically a royal pension. And then he was given the ultimate honor for an English writer. He was buried in Westminster Abbey. That's it. He had officially made it into the literary canon for good.
So, it's clear, right? Ben Jonson was an absolute master satirist who held up a mirror to the greed and follies of his own time. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question. If he were alive today, with that same sharp wit and moral compass, who would he write about? What modern-day alchemists and charlatans would he be putting on stage for all of us to